Have you ever found yourself waiting, checking your phone, hoping he'll choose you back? There's a particular kind of exhaustion that only women who've chased love understand. It lives in the space between your ribs, that hollow ache when you realize you've been pouring yourself into someone who hasn't decided if they want to catch what you're offering. You know the feeling, when you've sent that text and watched those 3 dots appear and disappear, when you've rearranged your entire evening hoping he might suggest meeting, when you've caught yourself explaining his distance to your friends while something deep inside whispers that love shouldn't require this much effort. This exhaustion doesn't announce itself loudly. It seeps in through the cracks of your awareness, disguised as hope, dressed up as patience, masquerading as understanding. You tell yourself you're being supportive, giving him space, being the cool girl who doesn't need labels or clarity. But beneath this performance, your nervous system is on constant alert, scanning for signs, interpreting silence, creating stories from breadcrumbs. The truth that no one speaks aloud is this: the woman who chases is bleeding energy she cannot afford to lose. Every moment spent wondering if he'll text back is a moment stolen from your own becoming. Every interpretation of his mixed signals is creative energy misdirected from building your own life. You become a detective in your own love story, gathering evidence of his interest or disinterest, when you could be authoring chapters of your own fulfillment. Bob Proctor understood something profound about human attraction that most relationship advice ignores entirely. He taught that you attract based on your self-image, not your intentions. This means that no amount of strategic texting, perfect timing, or casual pretending will override the frequency you're broadcasting from the depths of your being. When you chase, you're not just performing actions. You're emanating a vibration that says, "I am incomplete without you choosing."
From logic, no woman wakes up deciding she wants to pursue someone who seems indifferent. This impulse rises from something much older, much deeper, a paradigm installed long before you had words for love or longing. Perhaps it was watching your mother win your father's attention through effort. Perhaps it was learning that love was something to be earned through good behavior, through being prettier, smarter, more accommodating. Perhaps it was the first time someone's withdrawal made you feel you must have done something wrong. These paradigms become invisible programs running in your subconscious, directing your actions like an autopilot you forgot you turned on. The program says, love requires pursuit. Attention must be earned. If he's pulling away, I must not be enough. And so begins the loop that drains your life force, drop by precious drop. She texts him something light and friendly. He responds hours later, maybe days. She analyzes the response. Was it warm enough? Did he use emojis? Should she wait equally long to respond? She crafts her reply carefully, not too eager, not too distant. He takes even longer this time. She wonders if she said something wrong. She asks her friends. She rereads the conversation. She posts something on social media, hoping he'll see it and remember she exists. He likes the post, but doesn't message. She interprets this like ancient scripture, seeping meaning in digital gestures. Do you see the exhaustion in this? The way she's become a planet, orbiting around his sun, adjusting her position based on his gravitational pull? This is the chase in its modern form, not running after someone down the street, but energetically running after their attention, their validation, their choice. The metaphor Bob Proctor might use is water. Try to hold water by squeezing your fist tight, and it escapes through your fingers. The harder you grasp, the less remains. The woman who chases is trying to hold love with clenched hands, not understanding that love, like water, requires open palms, requires trust in its nature to pool where it's welcomed. But here is what's even more profound. The very act of chasing changes your molecular structure. It rewires your nervous system for anxiety rather than peace. It trains your body to associate love with effort, with uncertainty, with the adrenaline of never quite knowing where you stand. You become addicted not to love itself, but to the chase of love, to the drama, almost but not quite, to the intensity of wondering rather than the peace of knowing. The masculine energy in its healthy form wants to provide, to pursue, to offer. But when you're already running toward him, there's no space for him to move toward you. You filled the space between you with your own movement, your own energy, your own need. He feels this on a level beyond words. He feels the pressure of your wanting, the weight of your hope, the urgency of your timeline. And something ancient in him steps back, not because you're not wonderful, but because the dynamic feels inverted. This isn't about playing games or pretending disinterest. This is about understanding energy dynamics that exist beneath the surface of modern dating advice. When you chase, you're not just taking action, you're broadcasting a frequency that says, I don't trust that I'm enough to be chosen without effort. And the universe, in its perfect mirroring, sends you experiences that confirm this belief. The saddest part is watching brilliant women who run companies, who raise children, who create art, who heal others, reduce themselves to waiting for a text from someone who hasn't decided if they're a priority. These women who move mountains in every other area of life suddenly become small, anxious, constantly checking their phone like it holds their worth in its silence. What part of you still feels like love needs to be earned? What if the man who's meant for you comes when you stop trying to get him? This question strikes at the heart of everything you've been taught about love. From fairy tales to romantic comedies, you've absorbed the message that love requires effort, that it's something to be won through persistence, through being chosen above all others. But what if this entire premise is backwards? What if the very effort to get someone is what ensures they'll remain just out of reach? The shift I'm about to describe isn't a strategy. It's not about playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. It's a fundamental reorganization of your energy field, a return to the magnetic essence of feminine power that doesn't chase because it doesn't need to. It draws like the moon draws the tides, not through effort, but through being. Consider the difference between these two energetic states. In the first, you're leaning forward, reaching out, initiating, wondering, hoping. Your energy is moving outward, seeking, searching. In the second, you're rooted in your own center, present in your own life, available but not anxious, open but not empty. Your energy is gathered within you, creating a field of presence that doesn't push or pull. It simply is. Bob Proctor understood that your vibration speaks louder than your voice. It announces who you are before you say a word. When you walk into a room in chase mode, every cell in your body is broadcasting lack. When you walk into a room rooted in your own wholeness, you broadcast sufficiency. Men feel this, not consciously perhaps, but in the ancient parts of their being that recognize energy signatures like animals recognize pheromones. The principle of feminine magnetism isn't about manipulation or withholding. It's about understanding that the feminine, in its essence, is receptive, not passive, but actively receptive, like the earth receiving seeds, like the ocean receiving rivers. This receptivity creates space. And in that space, the masculine finds room to express its nature, which is to move toward, to offer, to provide, to pursue. When you're constantly texting him, initiating plans, trying to move the relationship forward, you're not giving his masculine energy anywhere to go. You're filling all the space with your own movement. It's like trying to pour water into a cup that's already overflowing. There's simply no room for what he might naturally want to offer. The fear beneath the chasing is always the same. If I don't pursue, nothing will happen. If I don't initiate, he'll forget I exist. If I don't show interest, he'll think I don't care. But this fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how energy works. Energy doesn't require constant action to be felt. The sun doesn't chase the earth to make sure it feels warm. The flower doesn't run after the bee to ensure pollination. Here's what happens when you shift from force to flow. First, You reclaim all the energy you'd been sending outward in the form of anxiety, wondering, and effort. This energy returns to you like birds coming home to roost. You feel it as a settling in your body, a deepening of your breath, a softening of your shoulders. You're no longer leaking life force through the cracks of uncertainty. Second, you begin to trust in divine timing rather than forced timing. You understand that what's meant for you won't require you to abandon your center to chase it down. The right man will find his way to you, not because you've perfected the art of seeming available,
Not too available, interested, but not too interested. He'll find his way because your energy field is clear, coherent, and magnetic. Third, you discover the power of feminine presence. This isn't about being silent or passive. It's about being so fully here, so completely embodied, that your presence itself becomes an invitation. When you're not chasing, you have energy available for presence. When you're not anxiously waiting for his text, you can actually taste your morning coffee, feel the sun on your skin, hear the music in everyday sounds. The practices that anchor this shift are deceptively simple. Feel yourself as complete in this moment, without his text, without his attention, without his choice. This isn't about convincing yourself you don't want connection. It's about knowing that your wholeness doesn't depend on it. Sit quietly and breathe into your lower belly. Feel the fullness of your own presence. Notice that you are already complete, already whole, already enough. Create spaces of silence in your interactions. When every impulse says to fill the quiet with words, to send another message, to keep the connection alive through effort, pause. Let silence have its say. In that silence, notice what arises. Often, it's his energy moving toward you, finally having space to express itself. Cultivate pleasure and presence in your body. The woman who doesn't chase is the woman who is so engaged with her own life, so present to her own pleasure, that she doesn't have excess energy for anxiety. Dance alone in your living room. Take baths that last too long. Eat meals slowly, tasting every bite. Make love to your life and watch how this changes what you attract. The shift from force to flow is really a return to trust. Trust that you don't have to manage the universe. Trust that love knows how to find you. Trust that the right man will recognize you without you having to wave flags or send smoke signals. Trust that your being is enough, has always been enough. When you make this shift, something profound happens to your nervous system. The constant vigilance relaxes. The hyper-awareness of his every move softens. You stop being a detective in your own love story and become the author instead. You stop asking, "What is he thinking?" and start asking, "What do I want to create?"
them to be complete, and something ancient in them recognizes this as valuable, as rare, as worth pursuing, not because you're playing games, but because you've genuinely returned to your own center. The paradox is perfect. When you stop trying to get him, you become infinitely more attractive. When you stop chasing, you become worth pursuing. When you stop needing to be chosen, you become the obvious choice. What would shift in your love life if you stopped pursuing and started allowing? He is drawn to the woman who no longer needs to be chosen. Close your eyes for a moment and see her. She's sitting at a cafe, perhaps, or walking through a garden, or simply standing in her kitchen making tea. But notice her quality of presence. She's not checking her phone. She's not wondering if he's thinking of her. She's not rehearsing conversations or planning strategies. She is simply, powerfully, magnetically here. Watch how she moves. There's no rush in her gestures, no anxiety in her breath. She touches objects like they matter. Her coffee cup, the petals of a flower, the fabric of her dress. She's making love to the moment, not because someone is watching, but because this is how she's learned to live, in full presence, in complete reception, in trust. Now watch what happens around her. People are drawn into her orbit without quite knowing why. Men pause mid-sentence when she enters a room, not because she's trying to be noticed, but because her presence creates a shift in the field. She doesn't demand attention, she commands it simply by being fully alive in her own skin. This is you. This is who you become when you stop chasing and start choosing. When you release the old paradigm that says love must be earned, pursued, strategized. When you understand that you are not auditioning for anyone's affection, they are demonstrating whether they're capable of meeting you in your fullness. The transformation from chaser to chooser rewrites your entire energy signature. Where once there was anxiety, will he text? Does he like me? Am I enough? Now there is peace. A deep cellular knowing that what belongs to you will find you. That forcing connection is like forcing a flower to bloom. It only damages the natural unfolding. I attract by being. I no longer chase. Let these words sink into your bones. Feel how they reorganize your cells, how they delete old programs of unworthiness. You attract by being, not by doing, not by performing, not by proving.
Simply by embodying the fullness of who you are, you become a beacon for what matches your frequency. I am magnetic. I am seen. I am enough. Notice how these words feel different from affirmations you might have tried before. These aren't hopes or wishes. These are declarations of what already is. You are magnetic. This is physics, not fantasy. You are seen by life itself, by the intelligence that orchestrates all meetings. You are enough, not because you've earned it, but because insufficiency was only ever an illusion. The woman who doesn't chase operates from an entirely different paradigm. Before, love felt scarce, like something she had to compete for, strategize to obtain, work to maintain. She lived in constant subtle fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of seeming too available or not available enough. Fear of losing what she never quite had. Now, love feels abundant, natural, inevitable. She knows that just as rivers find the ocean, what's meant for her will find its way. She's no longer operating from scarcity, but from overflow. She's not trying to get love, she's expressing it. She's not waiting to be chosen, she's choosing every moment who she'll share her energy with. The metaphor is profound. She is the field, he is the response. A field doesn't chase the seeds, it simply provides the conditions for growth. It offers its richness, its depth, its nourishment. And the right seeds find their way, take root, flourish. The wrong seeds blow past, seeking different soil. The field remains undiminished either way. When you embody this field-like quality, you stop taking rejection personally. You understand that someone choosing not to pursue you isn't a judgment on your worth, it's simply an energy mismatch. Like magnets that repel when facing the wrong direction, it's physics, not personal. This removes the sting from dating, the anxiety from early connections, the desperation from desire. The woman who chooses rather than chases has very different experiences with men. They lean in rather than pull back. They initiate rather than wait. They express rather than withhold. Not because she's playing psychological games, but because she's created energetic space for their masculine nature to express itself. She might meet someone at a bookstore. They talk briefly about the novel she's holding. She's present, engaged, but not performing. When he asks for her number, she considers, not from a place of excitement that someone her, but from genuine assessment of whether she wants to explore this connection. If she gives it, it's a choice, not a hope. He texts her the next day. She responds when it feels natural, not from a calculated strategy, but from authentic impulse. Sometimes that's right away. Sometimes it's hours later when she's finished what she's doing. She's not managing his perception. She's honoring her own rhythm. They meet for dinner. She doesn't spend hours preparing, anxiously trying to be perfect. She prepares the way she would for herself, with care but not anxiety, with beauty but not performance. At dinner, she's not interviewing for the position of girlfriend. She's not trying to impress or seduce. She's present, curious, allowing the evening to unfold without forcing it toward an outcome. If he doesn't call again, she notices but doesn't crumble. She understands that not every connection is meant to deepen. She returns to her life, her rich, full, engaging life, without feeling diminished. If he does call, she responds from genuine desire, not from relief that she's been chosen. This is the profound shift, from needing to be chosen to actively choosing, from hoping you're enough to knowing you're plenty, from chasing love to being so rooted in self-love that you become love's obvious destination. The journey from chaser to chooser isn't accomplished through willpower or strategy. It's an energetic evolution that happens when you finally, truly, deeply understand that you are the prize, not in an arrogant way, but in a factual way. You are life itself, creativity itself, love itself, temporarily focused in this beautiful form. Why would you chase when you are what everything seeks? As you embody this truth, watch how your love life transforms. Watch how different types of men appear. Watch how the ones who require chasing simply fade from your reality, replaced by those who know how to recognize and pursue something precious. Watch how dating becomes less like auditioning and more like dancing, a mutual exploration of compatibility rather than a one-sided performance. Most profoundly, watch how you transform, how the anxiety that once lived in your chest dissolves, how the constant checking and wondering and hoping quiets, how you begin to trust life to bring you what matches your frequency, how you stopped abandoning yourself for the possibility of love and instead become so rooted in self-love that everything else is overflow.
Doesn't chase has learned the ultimate secret. Love isn't something you find by running after it. Love is what finds you when you stop running. When you stand still in your own power, your own presence, your own wholeness. When you become a lighthouse instead of a searchlight, steady, bright, and trusted by ships to find their way home. What energy would you need to release to finally stop chasing love?